Okay friends, we are having a special video today. This video is going to focus on something that we don't normally do here on JB's Man Cave. I'm going to have a guest with me in this video, and this guest is someone special from TRINI Vegan. Her name is Maria Board. Do you know who Maria Board is? That's my wife actually. She made an appearance in one of my videos just briefly. I think it was the one where we went to see a mud volcano in the south. I think it's Diggity. Do you remember that? Well, anyway, she's here with me right now, and we are going to look at these places in Trinidad that are named by the Spanish. Now, the Spanish had a big influence in Trinidad and Tobago, but of course dialect, and well, of course Britain, you know, was the last colonizer here. And when they took over, they basically gave their English interpretation, and all the people who love dialect gave their dialect interpretation. But really, they are Spanish names. Now, my wife is from Argentina, by the way, so when she pronounces things, it's based on that accent. Just like anywhere else in the world, you know, like you have a British accent, an American accent, and a Trini accent. But the Argentines have their own accent, of course. But whenever I say the name of a place in Trinidad with a Spanish name, she will say, but no, it shouldn't be pronounced that way, it should be pronounced this way. So we're going to look at Spanish names, and I'm going to say what it should sound like in the Trini Palang, or how we would normally say it, and she's going to give the Spanish version of how it should be said. So I'll give you Maria Board. Can say hi to our friends.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for having me here in JB Man Cave, and I'm very excited about going through all of these names and have a little fun as well.
Okay, so if you look at the screen, you'll see a map, and on this map there are different locations with Spanish names, and we're going to go through each. I'm going to say the name as I think it should be said, or the name I know people, because sometimes they will take a name and they will cut it up and hack it because they just don't want all these syllables. So I'm going to do both ways, and then she's going to tell us how it should be pronounced. So we have an island here. I would like to call it Huevos.
Okay, huevos, eggs. That's the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Right? Okay, so most of the time people forget that the H in Spanish is silent. So people tend to say huevos, right? But it's huevos.
Huevos, well, I don't know. Okay, I actually haven't been down to that island, so me even saying that, I don't know. Then you have monos, but I think people actually pronounce monas when they say in that island.
Correct. But it's monos, right? Monkeys in Spanish.
I wonder where they came up with monas from.
I don't know, I suppose I'm guessing that there were monkeys around the island or something, because...
Well, actually there are monkeys down there.
Yes.
I mean, I have been down to that side. I don't know about the actual islands, but if you go around using a boat to the other side of Trinidad, behind where the base is, there are monkeys there, and we've actually went there sea bathing and were visited by monkeys.
Oh, interesting.
Anyway, so one of the other islands, they're very popular, Gaspar Grande. That's how we would normally say it.
Actually, you say Gaspar Grande, which I think that's exactly the correct pronunciation. Gaspar Grande, if I have to sound more Spanish. But most people here will say Gaspar Grande. You know, similar to Sangre Grande. We're going to reach that just now, but it's Gaspar Grande.
Alright, so here's a simpler one. In Diego Martin, they have La Puerta. And I think most people pronounce it like that. I don't think they break it down anymore. Is that how it should be said?
Well, of course, since you are English native, you will tend to say La Puerta and emphasize that R. But in Spanish or Spanish-speaking people will say La Puerta.
Okay. Well, here's the ticklish one that is funny even for me, because I know that probably should be said San Juan, but most people here will say San Juan, and they would not even pronounce it properly. And if somebody is comical, they would say San Juan. So how should that be pronounced?
But the thing about this area, I find that most trainees or every person I talk to have a different pronunciation for this area. The correct name is San Juan. St. John. All right, so San Juan, it should be the proper name. But I pretty much guess that if you tell someone I'm going to San Juan, they will have no clue where you're going.
They might think you're going to Puerto Rico.
Maybe, yes.
All right, so I think most people will just end up saying San Juan.
Osawa,
Yeah.
yes.
All right, so deeper in the valley, further up north, we have Santa Cruz. Now, that area was populated by a lot of Venezuelans at one time. People think that the recent influx of Venezuelans is a now-for-now thing, but really, in the history of Trinidad, there were many Venezuelans, and Santa Cruz was one of the places they settled. So is that correct, Santa Cruz?
I think the only thing I will change in the pronunciation is the Z. In English, you tend to pronounce the Z very strong, but in Spanish, it's not. So it should be Santa Cruz, no Santa Cruz, if that makes any sense.
Okay. And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but Maria is actually a teacher. She teaches Spanish, so in her correction of how we pronounce things, I mean, she can also come from the angle as teaching Spanish to English-speaking natives. So we have the best of both worlds here.
Well,
so
thank you so much.
Let's go with maracas now. I mean, maracas, they think of the instrument, and then of course there's the beach. But what about maracas?
I think most people pronounce it correctly. Of course, because I'm a native Spanish speaker, I would say maracas. But I try to understand, obviously, that when you speak a language for very long, in this case English, you won't be able to pronounce it exactly how a Spanish person will pronounce it, just like I have an accent when I speak. So yes, it's maracas, which is, Trinis will say maracas, but exactly the same.
Okay, cool. So further up, another beach that we visit is called Las Cuevas. And I don't think I've heard that pronounced any differently to that.
Yeah, that's correct. Las Cuevas.
Oh, at least we got one right.
Yes.
Okay, even further to the east, up north, is one that I believe should be simple enough. Toco.
Toco. Yes, that's correct. Toco. I touch, according to that map. I'm not sure completely if that is a Spanish word within the context. Actually, there are few areas here that I'm not sure if they are really considered a Spanish word. When we reach south, we're going to be mentioning that. But yeah, that's a pronunciation, Toco.
Okay, in the middle of the northeast, there is a place called Santa Rosa. That's pretty straightforward.
Right, so the only pronunciation the easier there is the S of Rosa. You're pronouncing like if it's a Z, right? You're saying Santa Rosa, which should be Santa Rosa. So the S is really soft.
Now I know in Spanish the R they roll it. I mean for Trini speakers or any English speakers, rolling the R is very difficult. Can you say that again? The Rosa?
Santa Rosa.
So it almost sounds like a machine gun.
It does. Usually you roll your tongue when the R is at the beginning of a word. In other aspects, when you have a double R as well. But it shouldn't be perhaps as strong if you cannot do it, but definitely that S, it should not be pronounced as a Z. It should be like an S. Santa Rosa. Very soft.
Okay, so moving back to the east again. Now this one is just as tricky as San Juan in that people pronounce it different ways. Now the common Trini way is Sangre Grande. And I know it should be what? Sangre Grande?
Correct.
Right.
Sangre Grande.
Well, why do you think they call it Sandy? I mean, where do they get the Sandy Grande from?
I don't understand, really, because I can understand if they say Sangre Grande, given the fact of the E pronunciation in the English language, but I don't know where the Sandy comes from. Maybe someone who is listening to this video, watching this video, can tell us where the Sangre Grande comes from. The Grande I understand, but the Sandy, where it's coming from? I have no idea.
Maybe you're thinking about the sandy beaches on the east. I don't know.
No. I think maybe it's one of those words that people pronounce and then they keep repeating it, and then generations keep repeating it, and it just, kind of change over time. Could be that.
Okay, well, moving on, we have and back to where next is Santa Cruz. How you say it? Santa Cruz? I feel like I'm learning places in Trinidad all over again.
Santa Cruz.
Right.
Santa Cruz. Let's see Santa Rosa. Pronounce it again.
Santa Rosa.
Yeah, that's so cute. Sounds good.
Don't say cute in here. People will start laughing. Alright, so we have La Pastora, and that seems pretty straightforward.
Yes.
Is that how it is?
La Pastora, correct. Perfect.
Okay, moving down to central Trinidad, we have Las Lomas. And most Trinis will pronounce it just like that, Las Lomas.
And that's correct. Las Lomas.
Alright, just underneath that, we have Tortuga.
Correct. Tortuga, turtle.
And moving to the east, Mundo Nuevo.
Mundo. Mundo Nuevo.
I'm not sure if I hear people saying Mundo.
Right. They will say Mando. How they will say
Mundo,
it? Yeah.
Mundo. I don't know. I find Trinis try to break up things as much as possible to say less. I want to say less. I
Yes.
mean more. I don't know how that works out.
So it's Mundo Nuevo.
Maybe if anybody from that area can tell us how you normally pronounce it in there, or if you have a shorter version. Alright, so moving just below that is one that's one of the popular Spanish names in the southeast, and that is Rio Claro.
Right. So if you have to pronounce it in Spanish, again, that R is going to, you have to roll the tongue, and it should be Rio Claro.
Yeah, I doubt anybody here will be trying to roll it. They'll probably be laughed at if anybody
Yes.
say, I'm going to Rio Claro. They say,
Yes, I know.
what's wrong with them? The person hungry.
That's right.
Alright, so we're moving more to the west again, and there's a popular place where people go and see the pitch lake, and that is La Brea.
Right. So the correct pronunciation, because you need to remember there's an A at the end of that word, it should be La Brea. And Brea is pitch in Spanish, right? So La Brea.
Right, nobody here really pronounces that A in that way, so they just say La Brea.
Right. If you put La Brea, really, does not even sound Spanish anymore. I don't know what sounds, but this have no meaning in Spanish.
But again, they want to drop the syllables, they don't want to have that extra A there, and that's how most people here say it. But La Brea is the correct word, right?
La Brea.
Alright, moving a little bit north before we head south, we have Vista Bella.
Now it's interesting about Vista Bella because to me it sounds very Italian actually, rather than Spanish. But if I have to pronounce it like we pronounce it in Argentina, then it will be Vista Bella, right? Because the double L in Argentina we say the sound of a sh, right? In most Latin American countries that will be Vista Bella.
Vista Bella.
Yes.
Well, Vista Bella is how they will say it here, and I know they're not going to change
No,
that.
but Vista Bella actually, like I said, sounds to me very Italian. So I won't say necessarily it's wrong.
So for the ELLA in Italian, they will say Ella.
Bella, correct.
Alright, so of course there's San Fernando, which everybody knows. But that's pretty straightforward. Is there another way to say that?
Well, in Trinidad they said it's Sando, right?
Well, yeah. Well, that's super short, but
Yes.
I mean,
The correct pronunciation is San Fernando.
and that's really a name.
Yes, Saint Ferdinand. Yes.
Okay, so moving down to the south, past La Brea, or La Brea, as we say here, you have Los Bajos.
Correct. Perfect pronunciation.
So-
Los Bajos.
So I don't know if I mean, I haven't been really down to that area. Do you all say it a different way? You can always let us know. And then today we have Palo Seco.
Yes. And I think most Trinidadians pronounce it just like that. Palo Seco.
Yes. And right on, coming up, or going deep into the south to the west, you have Cedros.
Uh-huh. Right. So in Spanish, we will pronounce it as Cedros.
Cedros.
Right. So you'll tend to use that E like you will use it in English with the I sound, right? It would be Cedros, but in Spanish, that E is Cedros.
But what about even further to the west, Icacos?
Icacos.
Is that's Spanish? not
Yes.
so? So okay, but it is a Spanish.
It sounds in Spanish, although I might say that it sounds also quite native. So I'm not sure if there's
Could
a
be the
connection.
Amerindians named
Could
it.
be.
I might have covered that in one of my videos, I don't know, because actually I found that some of the names from the Amerindians, the Caribbeans, or whomever was here, the way they name things actually sounds a lot like Spanish words.
Yes. And we were doing this while I teach from once when we cover particularly places in Trinidad and Tobago with the Spanish names, but also we cover not only that, but also last names that have influence as well with the Spanish last name, as well as name of the streets. You have a lot of bunch of streets in Woodbrook, for example, with the Spanish names. You also have a lot of last names in Trinidad with Spanish names. So the influence of the Spaniards in Trinidad for 300 years is huge.
Oh, that might be something to look at for another video. So the last one, funny enough, we seem to have a little bit of Argentina here. We have Buenos Aires, but I think it's spelled differently to how you all spell it for your capital.
Yes, here in Trinidad you have it with a Y, Buenos Aires, right? But in Spanish, the capital of Argentina is with an I, right? Buenos Aires.
Where does that Y come from? Is that still Spanish if they use Y?
No, not within that, no. I think maybe someone misspelled it and it just ended up there.
Okay.
That's my guess.
Alright, so let's look at the sister island, Tobago now. Some foreigners will call that Tobago.
Correct.
When you see this name, how would you pronounce it?
Tobago.
Tobago?
Yes.
So for the Spanish, it's as we're there, let's look at the name of the country itself. Trinidad. Trinidad is not an English word, right?
Correct. That's a question a lot of people wonder. Trinidad is a Spanish word. Therefore, is Trinidad, which means Trinity.
Right. So if you was to say Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, I would say Trinidad y Tobago.
Right, because the E, the Y is and.
Correct.
So, but from my history in secondary school, I believe that Tobago came from the word tobacco. So is it that tobacco is a Spanish word, or how does that work out?
Tobacco means tobacco, right? Like the one that, how you call this?
Smoke?
Yeah, like when you smoke. But I read many things about the origin of this word, and some people believe that this native, Amerindian perhaps, other people think is Spanish. So there's not really one definite answer for where the word Tobago comes from, or Tobago, as you'll say.
But do you all use the word Tobago in Spanish at all?
No, not
so
at all.
It's more or less surrounding a name.
Correct.
Okay, so there aren't many Spanish names in Tobago, but we'll look at a few. One of them, Tobagonians may have a different way to pronounce these. And if you do, you can always tell us in the comments area, because I like to hear your experience. But I'm seeing one called Gracias a Dios. Now I can't imagine any Trini pronouncing all that. Or they might say Dios. Or they might say something else altogether. But if you were to pronounce that, how would you pronounce it?
Yes. Gracias a Dios. Within the context of that area, but gracias a Dios means thank God.
Okay. Another one they have is Pedro Point.
Pedro Point.
But point isn't a Spanish word, not so?
No point, but Pedro, yes. So we wonder whether it's just someone who has an English last name and somebody happened to give the first name a Spanish name, or is this person a Spanish person somehow related to the conquistadores? Who knows?
Okay, maybe if
just like Diego Martin.
If anybody's a historian, they can always let us know how Pedro ended up at the point and give us some details in the comments area. So the last one in Tobago, we have La Guera, I guess is how people would pronounce that.
La Guira.
Okay. So what do you think? Do most Trinis pronounce these names properly, or do you think they need some Spanish lessons?
No, I think they try their best with their accent and all of that. Of course, I think everything to make things easier and faster, and the way we communicate with each other. So I think everybody understands. The only one that I think can improve a little bit is San Juan.
San Juan, yeah.
Yes.
I don't think they will go any further than San Juan.
Yes.
Most people pronounce it like that. And as we are here, before you go, We recently had the World Cup where Argentina won, thank goodness.
Yes.
I was able to save my life that day when we were watching the match. Is the pronunciation of the star player Messi, is that correct? Like Messi?
Messi.
Like how people make a mess?
Right.
That's the correct?
Correct. Messi is Italian, huh?
It's Italian?
It's Italian.
Oh, okay. So it's not a Spanish
No,
name
it's
then?
not.
Oh, interesting. Alright, well, we'd like to thank Maria Board for joining us today on JB's Man Cave, and I hope you thought our coverage of Spanish names in Trinidad and Tobago was helpful. Feel free to give me your comments. Please do like, share, and let us know. Thanks so much for watching.